Welcome to the Awesemo UFC DFS strategy show. Of course, right here at Awesemo.com. We are back a week off to recharge the batteries. Of course, as always, joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr., who, if you follow Pete on Twitter, first off, you might have seen Pete throwing a little nugget out there today, Pete. I saw that tweet. I did a little like, oh, really?
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I might have some fight news coming up soon, which is pretty awesome. I mean, feels like it's a long time coming, and a promotion contacted me, so I'm excited.
Yes, we'll be looking forward to that news, and when we can announce it right here on Awesemo.com. But of course, we've got a week off. Pete, man, what'd you do on your weekend off? I went out of town. I was over in Orlando. I enjoyed a few adult cocktails, but and I noticed I did see you opening up some of them UFC trading cards. Are we making some money on these UFC trading cards?
I don't know if I'm making any money yet, but I'm attempting to, and I'm getting into the UFC trading cards, especially the Prisms. I know that the other set is coming out for the UFC, but I'm trying to get my hands on some hobby boxes and some blasters and all that. But it's fun. It's a nice little hobby. And I want to pull a Habib or a Conor or something, or maybe a Khamzat Chimaev, somebody that's going to be an excellent sell. And I don't know, it's just a cool hobby to get into. And a lot of my friends are flipping cards left and right. So I figured, why not?
But of course, we're here to talk UFC Vegas number 28. I think overall, you just say not the sexiest of cards on paper.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all, Jason. I mean, like, we're back after a 1 week absence, and we have this card to deal with. It's okay, especially for being a fight night essentially. And I'm okay with it, but the main event is kind of underwhelming. There are some interesting fights on the card. You and I talked about before how we're really looking forward to the Miguel Baeza Santiago Ponzinibbio fight. Outside of that fight, there's like a few fights that are, kind of on my radar of like intrigue, but I mean, it's a relatively underwhelming card, but sometimes these cards pop, and especially with 14 fights, let's hope that we keep all the fights and we're not strapped to 10 or less.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities. We did see one fight change earlier on in this week where Maria Moroz off the fight card, stepping in, Tabitha Ricci, no DFS pricing, so we'll kind of see where that is at, but she is a massive betting underdog, which should not be surprised, and I'm sure we'll talk about her strength of schedule later on when we get to that matchup. Of course, if there's ever a time you do miss the show, you can check it out, a part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. Be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username included. Will be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday, and reviews are eligible to win up for 1 year. And of course, this is your best chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus, as you are be competing against less people in the contest and any other giveaway we run. So make sure to leave a 5-star review. We got a podcast for every sport, and we're available on every major podcasting platform. So head over to awesemo.com/podcast and be sure to leave us that 5-star review on that Awesemo MMA handle, maybe whether you listen to us maybe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever it may be. But Pete, let's get right into this main event. Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Augusto Sakai, your favorite pricing of the week. 8,200 for Rozenstruik, 8,000 for Sakai. Over on Fanduel, $19 and $17 respectively. When you look at both of these men, pretty much the reach is essentially the same. Rozenstruik does have that one inch reach advantage. For me, the concern with Rozenstruik is he's just not a volume puncher. And so and we were talking about this before the show, of because of the price point, especially on Draftkings, this fight is so intriguing, but you are kind of making a point to me that maybe you don't have to prioritize this fight because of the fighting styles here.
Yeah, the fighting styles kind of make me a little hesitant about rostering this fight. Understand that the 8,200, 8,000 fight is always difficult to get away from. But I think that this week you can, get away from it in some of your lineups. I don't really feel like I need to prioritize this fight. The volume of Jairzinho Rozenstruik is extremely underwhelming, almost non-existent at times, extremely hesitant. Even before getting knocked out from Francis Ngannou, there's just moments of inactivity, and inactivity over a five round fight doesn't really materialize into a great DFS score. Now, Augusto Sakai definitely has the volume advantage in the fight. I mean, if you're looking at the strike totals, 5.32 significant strikes per minute, whereas Rozenstruik has 3.14. Obviously, like, Sakai should have the edge in the volume, but I feel like both of these guys are going to be somewhat tentative at times, and it could be a staring contest. Augusto Sakai, when he goes, he puts together decent combinations. The power is definitely in Rozenstruik's favor. But for me, Jason, like, I don't know. I wish that these guys had takedowns in their back pocket because, maybe somebody could, change levels and make this fight a little bit interesting. I think if I'd have to bank on anybody doing that, it would be Augusto Sakai, maybe mixing in a takedown or two. He has landed some takedowns in the UFC, whereas Rozenstruik hasn't. So, it's a fight for me that I will have exposure to, but I'm not really expecting much. And especially with 14 fights on the card, I feel like it's okay to get away from. Obviously, you think about, heavyweight fights in general, you want to have exposure. But we have a guy with low volume, crazy power, and tentative tendencies against Augusto Sakai, who, in his matchup against Andrei Arlovski, you think like, okay, like, he's always been a volume guy. Well, not so much, because in the fight against Andrei Arlovski, he only landed 42 significant strikes and, still received a split decision victory. So I'm kind of like tempering expectations for the matchup. I feel like I still like Rozenstruik in the matchup, but I don't know. I'll probably pick some other fights and prioritize other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I just think what concerns me about Rozenstruik in this one is what happens if Sakai can make this a fight primarily against the fence, a clinch type fight. Can he potentially get his takedown? We haven't seen a takedown from him in his past couple of fights. We saw it early on when he came into the UFC. But yeah, I mean, look, it's not a fight that, I think more times every week we'll sit back here and say, hey, we want to have, a good amount of exposure on the main event. We might sit there and say, hey, our lineups are going to have 80% on the main event. I don't see that in this week. I mean, look, we have heavyweight matchups in the main event and co-main event. So you're naturally, I think people are going to look there because, I don't look at either. I definitely don't look at the main event as something where I think a knockout in 60 seconds is going to happen just because of, just how Rozenstruik is. So, but I would bet that I'll probably be in the neighborhood of 45% exposure on the main event.
Yeah, I think naturally the 8,200, 8,000 fights just get a slight bump. But, if you don't think that this fight is going to be finished and you think it's going to go the distance, can these guys score over 95 points? Now, obviously, at their price range, 95 points would be excellent. But there are 13 other fights that could come through for us. And if any of those 13 other fights, if 6 of them come through with 100 plus points, then you could have a situation where the main event's not a part of the optimal. But I understand what you're saying 100%.
Of course, be sure to follow Awesemo right here on YouTube. We got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. Of course, be sure to hit that notification bell so you know right when a show is live here on the channel. And of course, be sure to use the promo code MMA Strategy Show when you check out for a Awesemo Plus membership, as you'll get 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's MMA Strategy Show, all caps, one word, for 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus. If you are a new member, you see it right there on the screen. A great little deal that we got going on right over at awesemo.com. And of course, those tools that I use each and every week in developing my MMA lineups, my NBA lineups. Haven't done much MLB this season. I don't know if you've got much in MLB. To me, it's primarily been NBA and MMA. So that Top Fighter tool is a great tool to use. And of course, I will mention the MMA Top Fighter is a free premium content. So you got to check out that. And that gives you a little insight of what you get here when you get behind the paywall. So be sure to, if you're not subscribed to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, because we got a lot of great programming for you. Of course, mention the co-main events, also a heavyweight matchup. Walt Harris taking on Marcin Tybura. Marcin Tybura, 8,700 on DraftKings, 7,500 for Walt Harris. Marcin Tybura, a minus 175 betting favorite in this one. I mean, look, I think that if you tell me Marcin Tybura, he would win. I believe he would win this matchup a majority of the times. However, What concerns me, if I'm going to be a Marcin Tybura backer in this one, is the first round. Because if Walt Harris is going to win, it's likely come by knockout in the first round.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is a nice fight to target either side. I think that it's going to be pivotal for a lot of GPP lineups in order to take down the optimal. And I do think that Marcin Tybura is in an excellent spot here. I mean, it's known that Walt Harris doesn't really have the best grappling or wrestling. And Walt Harris just seems to be in a spot where he's taking on difficult matchups. And I don't know if it's a manager's decision or a personal decision to climb the ladder and try to prove it to himself. But there are plenty of other fights that Walt Harris could be taking. And I'm not really big on this matchup for him. I think that Marcin Tybura can, he's looked great as of late, putting together 4 victories, Sergey Spivak, Maxim Grishin, Ben Rothwell, and Greg Hardy. And throughout that time, we've seen good striking, good volume for the heavyweight division, good pressure against the cage, good takedowns. He has excellent grappling. And I think he needs to go to that well early against Walt Harris. Now, Walt Harris in totality is 13-9 overall. He's a really, he's a round one guy. And you even saw that in the Overeem fight. Like, he's extremely dangerous. But if you are able to turn the tide and put him in his disadvantage, positions where he's not so good, I think that Marcin Tybura can have a breakout performance here. I'm saying breakout performance in regards to the slate. I think at 8,700, I think it's a heck of a bargain. Walt Harris does need to be a part of your underdog pool because of that round one threat, but it's Tybura for me, and I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, and he's gone that takedown route throughout his UFC run, and I truly do feel that's got to be Walt Harris has been training in Vegas leading up to this one. I know his head coach, Chris Conley, has been out there with him as well. To me, this is a matchup that if you're going to be a Walt Harris backer, your concern is what happens if the fight gets out of the first round. You mentioned about the matchups. I'll label it out to you. When you're making the kind of money Walt Harris is making, you don't get those outside top 15 matchups.
Yeah, I mean, but even inside the top 15, right? Like, he doesn't need to be facing grappler after grappler. The Volkov fight, that wasn't one, but I think like pairing Walt Harris against guys that can take him down. Like, even if we go back and we look, Sergey Spivak came in on his debut and he actually put away Sergey Spivak. Then Alexei Olenek. What's Alexei Olenek good at? Just grappling. Overeem's got excellent wrestling for the heavyweight division, and now he's facing Marcin Tybura. So, the UFC has to get some bang for their buck, especially if they're paying you a lot. And I don't know. Walt Harris just really needs to patch some holes, and perhaps this is the matchup that he can really prove us all wrong.
Look, I think that if you do think that Walt can stop the takedowns, over on Fanduel at $14, he could be an interesting play for you there. $17 for Tybura, so I think that's a good value over there if you want to play Tybura. But I agree with you. I think this is a fight that you kind of have to circle and look at because I think it's a very good chance that the winner of this fight will be in the optimal lineup. Move on to the next matchup. We've got Roman Dolidze taking on Laureano Staropoli. Staropoli 7,800 over on DraftKings, 8,400 for Dolidze, 16 and 14 respectively over on FanDuel. I was seeing an article earlier today on Staropoli talking about being a training partner of Charles Oliveira and the motivation that has been for him, since Charles Oliveira became the champion.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you see teammates succeed, right? I would like it a lot more if they were closer in weight. Like, they're really not too close in weight. So when I hear like he's been, he trains a lot with Charles Oliveira, like obviously that's going to help his ground game for sure. And he's going to be able to have decent submission defense, especially when you're dealing with Oliveira's grappling on a day-to-day basis. But I mean, Staropoli, this fight, you have Dolidze coming down, his second matchup at middleweight, and Staropoli's at middleweight. So it's like, man, there's such a gap in the weight classes. I don't know who else he's training with. And I do like Staropoli's promise. I think that he has good hands and a strong ability to get back to his feet. But he has been taken down several times in the octagon. And now you're talking about facing a guy who has, a high pedigree of grappling in his back pocket if he can use it and not be an idiot, because fight IQ is a problem for Roman Dolidze. It really is. It's like he's too cocky in the cage where he's showing off, trying to call his shots. And he does have some power, but I think like from a volume perspective, he will be a step behind Laureano Staropoli. Like I think Staropoli could light him up like a Christmas tree if it's on the feet. And I think that Dolidze will really have to resort to takedowns in order to win this matchup. But I still think that the physicality of Dolidze is what's going to get it done. Like Staropoli needs to be a part of your underdog pool. I think that he's extremely interesting given his price. I don't think that he knocks him out, but I think that he could pull off a decision. But Dolidze should be able to overpower him here.
I'm going to bring up some stats for you here. Roman Dolidze in his last fight against Trevin Giles, 75 total strikes landed, 32 significant strikes landed. In the fight before that, by the way, that was a 3-round fight. His fight against John Allen was also a 3-round fight, 48 total strikes, 118 total strikes, 51 significant strikes. Now, you did have 4 minutes to 7 minutes of control time. I guess the question is, if this thing does go 15 minutes, I mean, how many takedowns do we need out of Roman Dolidze to be optimal?
Well, we do know that like Laureano Staropoli is good at getting back to his feet, which could inflate Roman Dolidze's numbers, right? Like we do understand that, Roman could have to resort to getting 3+ takedowns throughout the bout in order to really pay off. And I think that's definitely possible. 1 a round is always something that you want. 8,400, it's not like he has to really go crazy. I think that as long as he can get you 90+ points, you think about his performance against John Allen, 51 significant strikes, 3 takedowns, 7 minutes of control time, scored 92 fantasy points. You get that at 8,400, I think you'd be decently satisfied. But I think that there's much more upside there because I think that a finish could happen because of how slick he is on the mat. And now you think of like Staropoli is really he's gonna be somewhat undersized in this matchup, and I think that Dolidze, can definitely exploit that here. But I mean, the trust for Dolidze is gone. Like he's kind of like on my don't trust list because of how much he plays with his food in the octagon, and it's quite irritating, especially whether you have him a part of your DFS lineups or if you have money on him.
Of course, if you want to get the premium tools and content we have over at Awesemo.com. Got to sign for that Awesemo Plus weekly pass, $29.95. Gives you access to all the great premium tools and content that we use on a daily basis, coming from the #1 DFS player in the world, Alex Awesemo Baker. Of course, if you just want a Awesemo Plus weekly pass, you can get that for $8.95. Also, if you want to get a peek what's behind the paywall today in terms of free content, MMA Top Fighters is free up there. Also, NBA player projections up there. They look to do some late swaps into that Laker and Sun game. So if you want to get a little peek of what you can get behind the paywall, checking out our free content every day is a great way to see that. Of course, sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass, $29.95, and that Awesemo Plus weekly pass is $8.95. Of course, also you get our pro plays, part of the MMA package, which is something I do after every time me and Pete do these shows, because sometimes Pete can sway me. Sometimes I can persuade Pete in terms of, but this is an interesting one. But to me, Pete, the best fight on this card is Santiago Ponzinibbio against Miguel Baeza. And, this is like old school UFC matchmaking right here. You've got the guy who's been around for a while, and then you got the up and comer in Miguel Baeza. Here's my concern on the Santiago aspect of this is how do you bounce back after that comeback? He had the layoff, unsuccessful in that return, but then you got Miguel Baeza on the other one where, Pete, this is a this is a huge step up in competition for him. I mean, look, he's coming off that win against Matt Brown, but it's Matt Brown of 2021, not the Matt Brown of 2014.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, and I'm excited for this matchup. Miguel Baeza is a guy I've been following on social for quite some time. I follow his boxing coach as well. I think that he has so much promise within the division, and I think that he possesses some strong boxing and some sneaky jiu-jitsu that a lot of people aren't really aware of. He's shown us in his previous performance of how he can get the fights done. And I think that he's just a complete fighter right now. Whereas, Santiago Ponzinibbio has the experience edge, an extreme experience edge, 31 professional fights for Santiago Ponzinibbio, 27-4. So, I mean, is Miguel Baeza the guy to give Ponzinibbio his 5th professional loss? Miguel Baeza is only 10-0, so he's pretty green in regards to Ponzinibbio's experience. But I do think that the skills are there. And in Ponzinibbio's previous performance, he didn't really look like himself. He looked like a shell of his former self against Li Jingliang. Ended up getting knocked out pretty bad. But up until that point, like, he was on such a roll. So, he knocked out Court McGee, win over Zach Cummings, Nordine Taleb, knockout over Gunnar Nelson, Mike Perry, and then a knockout over Neil Magny. So, I mean, the guy's been through the ringer and proved himself. But you mentioned it. It's a massive step up in competition for Miguel Baeza. But I do like the skills that he possesses against the potential chinniness of Santiago Ponzinibbio now. Maybe he can really, prey on that weakness and, capitalize on hurting him on the feet. But if things get ugly, I wouldn't be surprised to see, Miguel Baeza look to go to the takedown route in order to secure some rounds. I am backing Miguel Baeza quite a bit here, Jason. But let me tell you that, if you're looking at an underdog that is, a staple within the division and was on such a roll, Santiago Ponzinibbio at 7,900 is a guy that you need to be looking at and probably hammering because he's one of the best values on the slate.
He's going to be potentially a leverage play for me in terms of seeing what we see with ownership projections as we lead up to lock on Saturday. By the way, we'll be here on Saturday at 3:00 Eastern time, leading up to UFC Vegas 28, which of course start at 4 p.m. Eastern time. He's just one of those guys that, look, we live in a world where we remember the last thing we saw from you. And I do feel like, and I think this is a fight that will be a match. I'll have one of my most exposed fights will probably be this fight. But I also think that potentially Santiago could be in a good leverage spot against the rest of the field.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, both players will be pretty popular and for good reason. I will be hammering this fight as I mentioned. And MMA fans in general are pretty fickle, and recency biases. Oh yeah,
no,
so,
you don't say.
And recency bias is a real thing in this sport. So you lose a fight, you suck. You win a fight, you're the greatest thing. So it's just how it is, man. And that's why this sport's so difficult because there's such a long period of time for you to go out there and redeem yourself. So a guy when he's on such a long winning streak is impressive because it's a very, very difficult sport to be successful in. But, in saying that, I do think that Miguel Baeza has all the skills. It's just, the having to deal with adversity, and especially against a guy that's taken out some legitimate top talent. But if a shell of Santiago Ponzinibbio walks in there against Miguel Baeza walks out victorious.
I mean, and Miguel Baeza, he's won performance of the night bonus his last two fights. I mean, he's an exciting guy to watch, and he definitely is a guy in this division. But to me, it's that question. It's just that question mark of, okay, is it too fast for this type of step up in competition, or is it something that the UFC matchmakers, maybe they just see, and maybe it's simply an equation of, what? We want to see if these young kids got it. Let's put them up there against a veteran, and then let's see how the veteran responds after a loss.
Well, I mean, it comes down to more about the veteran, I think, right? Like, they'll offer the prospect an opportunity, and if the coaching staff don't think that it's a good opportunity, then they'll probably turn it down. But it's probably more of a determining factor about Santiago Ponzinibbio. I'm sure that he's making a decent amount of money, and if he can't beat a new prospect who's only 10-0, then where's he really at? Maybe maybe renegotiations coming up. We don't know. But I will say that Miguel Baeza Caramel Thunder is legit, especially for the division. It's just a massive, massive step up in competition.
Next up, we got Dusko taking on Rodrigues. Dusko 8,600, Rodrigues 7,600. Rodrigues just coming off wins in LFA in the middleweight tournament that they put together. They did a 4-man tournament, defeating Josh Frim there in the finals of that tournament. Stepping up here on short notice to take this matchup after you saw what happened with Dusko in that last fight against Sora. I can see you shake your head there. Is he on the do not trust list with the chin?
He is the mayor of the do not trust list. He's such an idiot. And the reason I say that is because fight IQ is a real thing. And, you can get away with stuff in the gym, but when your hands are down and you're just fading back and attempting to pull back from all shots and it's not working. Okay. You try it once, maybe twice. it's clearly a habit. So I wonder if he's made adjustments, because it's not like he just made one mistake and, his opponent capitalized on it and finished him. He did it numerous times, and it's just like, dude, put your hands up, stop fading back, work on defense, work on clinching him, work on trying to take him down, because Dusko Todorovic, like, he has a ton of skill. He really does. He has excellent jiu-jitsu that a lot of people aren't aware of. Pretty damn good volume, good striking. It's just now the recklessness / fight IQ and striking defense is kind of like a liability. So when a guy is a liability like this, you either ride the wave that he's not making the changes, and if he's not making the changes or the adjustments, then Gregory Rodrigues might be one of your favorite plays on the slate. And I do think that this matchup is like going to be one of my most favorite that I will be targeting, because I just feel like on either side, I can see somebody working towards a finish or an explosive score. So, if you think that Dusko Todorovic is going to sit back and make adjustments because he is young, and, fighters are constantly improving and fixing themselves. So don't think that this is a constant going forward. I mean, we will know come Saturday whether he's made adjustments, but I do favor Dusko Todorovic still. I think that he's a big guy for the division. Nothing crazy as far as size, but I think the skills are all there. I feel like they're pretty polished. If he can just kind of just adjust his defense, I think that he can be a legitimate threat for the division. And Punahele Soriano is so damn good. And maybe I didn't give Punahele Soriano enough credit, but, I think that he's going to be here for some time too. So, split your exposure for this fight. Gregory Rodrigues has all the skills to make this a competitive fight in all areas. But when the going gets tough, and if this turns into a slugfest, I still think I might favor Dusko Todorovic in the exchanges.
Yeah, I think what the question mark I have with Dusko is, after taking the damage that he did take in that Soriano fight, did he take some time away to sit there and rest his brain a little bit? It's that, to me, is a question mark. It's been since January since that fight happened. So it's a concern with mine of, and like, we always talk about, there's things we know and there's things we don't know in the fight game. That's one of those things of, I don't know, and bring up the point of, man, are your hands going to be up? That's got to be a question mark. In terms of that, of course, this is the Awesemo UFC DFS strategy show. We're here talking UFC Vegas number 28, and we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. With Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge with their player prop contest they have over there. And of course, when you use that promo code Awesemo, you get an instant first match deposit bonus up to $100. And got an email from Monkey Knife Fight this week. They've changed up their scoring for UFC, starting with this event, where a significant strike is now 0.6 points, knockdown 12 points, takedown 6 points, takedown defended 3 points, submission attempt 5 points. A first round win is 100 points, a second round win 75 points, a third round win 50 points, fourth round win 35 points, a fifth round win 25 points, a decision win 20 points. So as you are putting together whatever you want to do over at Monkey Knife Fight, you got to take in what that new scoring system is in there. Of course, those more or less contests, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about that in terms of those more or less over on Monkey Knife Fight during live before lock. Of course, as I mentioned, be sure to use that promo code Awesemo when you sign up and get instant first match deposit of up to $100. Next up in the things you may and may not know is Tom Breese. Tom Breese against Antonio Arroyo. Tom Breese 9,200, 7,000 for Arroyo. The thing with Breese, I was talking to somebody earlier this week. We were talking about the Ultimate Fighter, and I was mentioning about, the Ultimate Fighter it's a reality show that is going to present a narrative, and you may never live past that narrative. Like when you think Julian Lane, you only think one thing. Yeah. Let me bang, bro. It's the only thing you think of. When people talk about Maurice Green, all they talk about is that he smokes and he drinks. Well, he hasn't smoked in 2 years. That perception never leaves you. Tom Breese, to me, the perception of when he, was in the back and did not make it out to the cage, that's never going to leave him. So everyone's always going to have that question mark. It's a high price tag this week at 9,200, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, it is a high price tag. And I will say that, um, you know, I do like Tom Breeze, and I think that he has such high skills for the division, especially, but just in general in the UFC. And, I think that of lately, we've seen a good Tom Breeze, a good version of Tom Breeze. And we've always heard about the potential and how good he is in the gym. And even from his grappling to his striking, his hands, he's slowly but surely putting it together. But there are some times where you see him kind of just, not look mentally there. And I wouldn't say that's how it was in the Omari Akhmedov fight. I just think that Omari Akhmedov is a very difficult opponent for a lot of people. Now, against a guy in Antonio Arroyo, I think that you can capitalize on the inexperience of Arroyo, potentially work in some takedowns. You just have to deal with the power of Arroyo on the feet. But I think a guy like, Tom Breeze with some slick submissions, in his back pocket can hurt Arroyo, make this into the clinch, potentially work towards a takedown. I know that's not really like what you want to think of for Tom Breeze, but I think that he is the A side of the fight. But if you think that he can get intimidated by, Antonio Arroyo, and Antonio Arroyo could go out there and just crack him with a kick or some explosive hands at 7,000, you're talking about an excellent bargain, But for me, I view Tom Breeze as a guy that's inconsistent, but UFC level. And Antonio Arroyo just really hasn't shown me that he's UFC level to this point. He could prove us wrong right here. This is a big step up in competition.
It is a step up. I do like Breeze. I mean, to me, it's just in terms of DFS is he's got to get a stoppage at 9,200. I mean, he has to.
Yeah, I mean, the hands are there. If you're looking at Antonio Arroyo, I mean, back-to-back losses against Deron Winn and Andre Muniz. I mean, both two talented fighters, but what are they both good at? They're both good at grappling, both good at wrestling. So this is a stylistic clash between, I would say, two strikers. And I want to see how this fares. I want to see who it favors. If it gets ugly, does Tom Breeze crack under pressure? At 9,200, he should be able to he has to get a finish like you spoke of. I don't really think that he does, though. I don't think that he gets a finish over Antonio Arroyo. I could be wrong, but I feel like I'd much rather spend my salary elsewhere.
Next up, we have got Makwan Amirkhani taking on Kamela Kirk. Kirk taking this fight on short notice. Initially, Nate Landwehr was going to be the opponent here for Amirkhani. Of course, Kirk coming off that win in LFA against Daniel Swain. Price point here, $9,400 for Makwan Amirkhani, $6,800 for Kirk. Kirk, $9 on FanDuel, $21 for Amirkhani.
Yeah, so this is an interesting fight, and especially when a guy's stepping up on short notice. But it's nice to know that Kamela Kirk just had a fight not so long ago. And I do think that the skills are there. And I think that he's a pretty damn good striker. He has shown on the regional scene that he can put together excellent combinations, good hands, good legs. Seems well-rounded on the regional scene. Had a shot in the Contender Series against Billy Quarantillo, but, fell short. But Billy Quarantillo was like a buzzsaw for a lot of fighters, in the UFC too. So I don't really want him to I don't want to hang my head at, that performance against Billy Quarantillo, because I do think that this is a winnable fight against Makwan Amirkhani. Now, in saying that, he needs to stuff the takedowns, right, Jason? Because Amirkhani, if he's good at anything, he's good at taking people down and working towards a submission finish. Now, we have seen Amirkhani when he's, unable to keep his opponents on the mat or unable to secure a takedown, that he's a liability on the feet. We saw it in the Barboza fight, the Shane Burgos fight. We've seen him beat from pillar to post, but there's toughness there. Like, he is very tough, fatigues at times, and potentially a guy like Kamela Kirk can expose him here. So I do have some interest in Kamela Kirk. Now, I know that Kamela Kirk has some solid jiu-jitsu as well. And if I'm looking at his record right now, hasn't been submitted. So that's a nice thing to know when you're going up against Makwan Amirkhani. So Makwan Amirkhani, if he's unable to get a submission over him, he needs to secure tons of takedowns and control time. How can he do that? Can he keep up that cardio and that pace? I'm not sure. But you would like to side with the UFC experience and kind of always pick the UFC vet in a situation like this. But I'm telling you guys, Camuela Kirk needs to be a part of your underdog pool, even at 6,800. I think that he's a live underdog in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be someone that will be in my pool as I've already put probably reserved my contest over on DK. So, that's one of the things of, because this week I definitely think that you're going to be going up against, more, people who are constantly playing MMA DFS. So as, I'm mostly a 20 max, 3 max single entry type player. Kirk will be someone that I'll set up an underdog pool in Fantasy Cruncher.
Yeah.
In terms of guys that, say, hey, give me at least one of these guys. And I mean, look, Kirk at 6,800, even if he wins in a decision, I can't say how he's not optimal.
Yeah.
6,800.
It just allows so much roster flexibility and, it just makes things so much easier. Now, if he were to win a decision and all the top guys didn't come through in some world, in some dimension, then perhaps he's not a part of the optimal because there are some other fighters in there that really kind of, outproduce their salary. But I'm telling you, Camuela Kirk needs to be a part of your underdog pool. And I do the same exact thing over on Awesemo.com, Fantasy Cruncher, set my groups. I like to do that for a lot of things, and especially for my underdogs, making sure I whether I'm locking somebody in or I'm getting exposure to one or more of these guys.
And look, I'll say this, even if you're just a single entry player, one of the things I love to do in single entry contests is just, put in our projections, put in, all the factors that I like to put in. And then I just like to see how it spits out lineups. Sometimes I'll say, give me 500 lineups. And so it allows me to kind of see the different combinations of lineups you can put together, and then I'll sort them in different ways. But that's one of the best things I can tell people is when you have a premium subscription, you have Fantasy Cruncher part of your account, even if you're just a single entry 3 max player, run a ton of lineups just to kind of see the combinations that you'll get.
Yeah, 100%. For me, whenever I do any crunch for any sport, esports, NBA, baseball, MMA, I like to run 500 because I want to see the exposure levels on people. And even when I'm setting groups or I'm, hitting the thumbs up or thumbs down on some people or manipulating the exposure myself, I want to see and make sure that I'm getting to all the fighters. Like if I see like a couple fighters in there under 10% that I actually really like, well, I got to change something and I got to, modify something. So it's a great tool. If you guys are kind of like, just playing DFS without it, I really think that it'll take your DFS skills to a different level.
Yeah, it definitely is. Sometimes I see those exposures. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I do not want that much exposure on a certain player. So, but of course, one of the great things that we love to see is after those contests, we love to see people with their winnings. Of course, you can be a part of the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Make sure you're rocking that Awesemo avatar on your DFS profile. All you can do is place in the top 3 in a contest with over 5,000 entries. Tweet your wins to @Awesemo HOF on Twitter. You'll win a free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. Of course, you'll see the screenshots here from Tyler as he pops those up there. I know seeing some things in NBA and some single entries of Hog_11 winning $1,500. So kudos to him. Taking down an NBA single entry there as well. Also, the real coach, $70,000 first place prize. Kudos to him, man. Ben Simmons leading his lineup there. Also, $100,000 winner as well. So kudos, man. Winning over $280,000 in one night. That's a great night. That is a great night.
Damn, that's incredible. I mean, my goodness, lunch is on you, real coach.
Exactly. Rip Racks winning $4,000 over there on Fanduel in NBA. Also, we had J Bud Picks taking down third, winning $2,500. Nick Hill coming in second in PGA, taking down $80,000. Just missed out on first place by half a point, which was 200,000.
My goodness. Look we're killing it. And, shout out to my boy Spags. I don't know if he got, mentioned. I'm sure he did.
He did. Oh, he did. Yeah.
Oh, he absolutely killed it, man. Shout out to my boy Spags. I saw that hit and I was like, it couldn't have happened to a better person. So, congrats Spags. And, that's why we do this, guys. We enjoy seeing our members and our team just succeed. So, yeah, we want to see you guys join that Hall of Fame, especially in the MMA.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of those contests I love playing is the multipliers. And the other night, I'm sitting here watching the Clipper games, and wife kind of wants the TV to go off. I'm like, no, I'm ready to get first place here. I know I need Kawhi to keep getting me some points.
Oh man, yeah, that's a tough moment right there, right? Like you're trying to act like you don't care about her turning off that TV, and then you're like, baby, I got some money on this. Don't touch the damn remote.
Exactly. Yeah, I would tell you, I wish we saw some of those multipliers in MMA like we see in NBA. Those are honestly some of my favorite contests to play over. In NBA DFS, but maybe we'll see some more of that over in the MMA side of things. Let's move on to the next fight, another heavyweight matchup. Tanner Boser taking on Ilir Latifi. Tanner Boser 8,900, Latifi 7,300. I mean, look, Pete, Latifi's game plan's got to be try to take this fight to the ground. Has to be.
Yeah, 100%. So Tanner Boser made a career, as a heavyweight, just kind of staying on the outside and outpointing a lot of his opponents. And, he did look good in the UFC and has looked good. But he's actually run into some knockouts as well. And traditionally not a KO artist, but picking up a knockout win over Felipe Lins and then Rafael Pessoa is extremely impressive. Losing a decision to Andrei Arlovsky. At 8,900, I mean, he to me doesn't do enough. If you expect him to go out there and get a finish over Ilir Latifi, then by all means, he's probably going to pay off that 8,900 price tag. But when I look at Latifi, who did not get knocked out by Derek Lewis, I don't think that Tanner Boser's knocking him out, Jason. So, I think that Ilir Latifi, needs to resort to takedowns, as you mentioned. And I think that's his path to victory here, and press Tanner Boser against the cage. Ilir Latifi needs to, incorporate takedowns, smothering pressure. And he's one of my favorite underdogs at 7,300. Not the most exciting fight. I think that, he has potential to extremely outproduce his salary at 7,300, but he's a guy I will be including a lot in my lineups and will allow me a lot of roster flexibility.
Well, I think the difference here in terms of Latifi and the other opponents that Tanner Boser has had in the UFC, you really haven't had someone who was going to really push the takedown where,
right.
I mean, look, Latifi is middleweight body.
Yeah.
Fighting heavyweight.
Yeah. I have a couple fighters that are literally just like Latifi, but they're heavyweights. So I understand where Latifi's at from a stylistic and, a frame disadvantage, but Tanner Boser's not like some behemoth. Tanner Boser's a big guy, but it's not like he's fighting Alexander Volkov or something like that, like a skyscraper type of guy. I think that this is a very winnable fight for Ilir Latifi, and I know it's some time ago, but I do find confidence when I look back on his record and I see a victory over Tyson Pedro, 44 significant strikes, 4 takedowns, 7 minutes of control time, pumped out 84 points, nothing crazy. I see that he got 3 takedowns over Derek Lewis, 9 minutes of control time. That's pretty awesome. I know Derek Lewis, his wrestling's not really up to par, but his get up ability is always there. I think Corey Anderson, if you look what Corey Anderson's doing in Bellator, he looks absolutely sensational. Didn't score any takedowns against Corey Anderson, but 33 significant strikes. All in all, what I'm saying is Latifi has fought the better competition despite Tanner Boser's experience. And I just think that Latifi is underpriced here. I like him quite a bit.
The prop bet of Latifi to win by decision plus 365 is interesting.
Wow.
Boser plus 190. So I think if you're looking to make a bet on this fight, I think that's the prop bet you got to be looking at in this fight, because I do think this one goes 15 minutes.
All right. So what is Vegas thinking in a situation like that, right? Like Boser's knocking him out or Latifi's getting a finish. Boser's very, very durable. And Boser's not really a KO artist, but he has in the UFC picked up 2 knockouts. I don't know. That's odd.
So the over 2.5 rounds is minus 140. Fight goes decision minus 120. Latifi by TKO KO plus 495. Boser by TKO KO plus 205. Latifi via submission plus 1205. Boser by submission plus 2250.
Hold on. Over 2.5, you said, or over 2 rounds was minus 120?
140 over 2.5 rounds.
And then
so they're telling you they think it's going to decision.
Yeah, I know, but the plus money on these guys to win by decision is crazy. Like it's
Yeah,
not. I
no.
mean, like it's a close fight in my opinion. I don't think that Latifi should be that far off.
Yeah, that's and this, look, and we always talk about it. Live betting in MMA is
Yeah,
such a critical thing that if you live in a state where you can live bet, man, I'm telling you, you got to take advantage of it.
Jason, I can't wait. It's happening soon. Did you see my post about how they might be suspending DFS for my state, Connecticut?
I did see that. So so here in Florida, sports betting is becoming legal.
Right.
And as that was getting voted on, there was also this bill about DFS, and it looks like
Yeah.
it's kind of been tabled. And I really didn't do a deep dive into it, but I'm like, hold on. October 15th comes around here. I'm gonna literally be able to sit on my couch and wager on MMA if I want to, but we're questioning DFS now.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I think it's kind of like a makeup, like a makeup call. Like, DFS was like going through a loophole for quite some time here in Connecticut. And now that they will be passing sports betting, I feel like they're going to make it extra difficult, as far as like legislation and stuff in order, to get past, kind of like a makeup call in order to get some more money for the time that they were able to get away with it. So I don't know, man. We'll have to see. But come July, I'm hoping that they have it resolved.
Yeah, Nick brings up this question over in YouTube. He says, "Do betting odds heavily affect your DFS picks?" I would say it goes into my evaluation. And what I'm looking at is where did the odds maker start the fight at?
Yeah.
And then how did the betting public react to that line? I think it's a key component, but ultimately it just comes down to what I see on film.
Yeah. Me personally, no. I don't really care about, Vegas odds. I do look at them from time to time as kind of like a last thing because I like just a little reassurance sometimes. But if you are just banking on Vegas odds, they're right more often than they're wrong. Hence why they built an empire. But for MMA, I feel like they're not really that good. Like fighting is such an unpredictable sport. There are plenty of other spots that Vegas is much better at.
Of course, I do want to let you know over at Awesemo.com right now, we now have got you covered for tennis DFS. And if you have yet to play tennis DFS, then now is the time to give it a chance with the French Open underway. We just launched our premium tennis DFS projections, which are free for the French Open, but we'll be going behind the paywall come Wimbledon. So now's your chance to preview them. DraftKings is offering contests with as much as $20,000 being awarded to first place. So there is some potential big money to be had there. You can find these under the tennis category on our homepage at awesemo.com. You can see it right there on the screen as Tyler's got it up on the screen there. By the way, happy early birthday to Tyler coming up this weekend. So I know he's going to be celebrating a little bit.
Happy birthday to our boy. That is right. Tyler behind the scenes, just killing it as always. And, happy birthday. Enjoy your weekend, buddy.
Next up, we have got Francisco Trinaldo taking on Muslim Salikhov. Salikhov 9,100, 7,100 for Trinaldo over on Fanduel, $22 and $8 respectively. Trinaldo is the guy that just keeps on trucking along. Like it's a guy that you probably would have thought, oh, he's gonna his days in UFC coming, but this guy just keeps trucking along. But once again, underdog spot for him.
Can you believe that we're really even talking about this? About Francisco Trinaldo competing in the UFC at age 42 and having success. Like the guy has been great in the UFC, and he doesn't even seem like he's like losing a step. Now, let me say that Jason always says that Father Time's undefeated. So when he does lose a step, it's going to happen really quickly, and then it's probably never going to. He's never going to revert back from that. But he's on a 3-fight win streak over decent competition. Bobby Green, John McDessie, Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert's that's probably the worst win of that 3-fight streak. But I mean, Trinaldo's been durable for the most part throughout his career. He is in an underdog spot here, and I think that he'll be extremely popular because of what he does. Like he comes forward, he throws explosive combinations, good power, has takedowns to resort to if he needs to. The problem is he's fighting a guy who's so slick on the feet that he might end up getting knocked out. And that's the way I see it going. I personally think that Muslim Salikhov hasn't really shown the best in the octagon. And I can say that even though he has 2 knockouts, knockout over Ricky Rainey and Nordine Taleb. But I feel like he hasn't really given a good account of himself, of like a complete performance. The wins over Laureano Staropoli and Eliza Zaleski dos Santos, those are definitely good, solid wins. But I think that we could have a highlight on our hands come Saturday night, and I think it will be Muslim Salikhov over Francisco Trinaldo.
So I think we see who might be in the Pete the Heat maximum exposure list here.
Not really though, because like his style's so weird, and it's like I don't know. I can see this being like a very low volume type of fight, and then when the knockout happens, only a couple significant strikes actually landed, and maybe it was in the second or third round. And at his given price point of 9,100, maybe it doesn't really come through, because if you look at what Salikhov has done in the UFC in his four fight win streak, 91 points, 104 points, 71 points, 46 points. Guess what? Those 46 points, Jason, that's in a win. That's like one of the lowest things I've ever seen for a win.
Yeah, it's sometimes you wonder, how's that even possible?
I don't know. Like, you're fighting, but obviously it's like you get controlled throughout the throughout the fight or the rounds. I do think that this could have some banger potential between Trinaldo and Salikhov in some exchanges. But, it's Salikhov for me. I think Trinaldo will be a very, very chalky guy at 7,100. And if you think if it's not broken, then why fix it? And you want to go back to that well, and you think he picks up his 4th consecutive victory at 42 years old against one of the best strikers in the UFC, I mean, I can't fault you there. I mean, he could do it, but I'm backing Salikhov.
Next up, we got Alan Patrick taking on Mason Jones. Mason Jones, 9,500 on DraftKings, 6,700 for Alan Patrick. Mason Jones may be one of the most interesting fighters to me on this card. Is how does he bounce back? This is a former Cage Warriors champion, lost his UFC debut. So how does he bounce back? Taking on Alan Patrick here. I mean, obviously, I do feel like this is a showcase fight for Mason Jones.
Yeah.
Boy, 9,500. That is a huge price tag to pay.
Man, I wish he wasn't 9,500, because he's one of my favorite fighters on the slate. And I know that sounds kind of like, silly, because he's 9,500. It kind of looks like an auto win for him. It's not an auto win. Alan Patrick is a difficult fight for most people. But I think that Mason Jones showed off some incredible toughness, excellent volume, just a well-rounded skill set against Mike Davis. And that's a very difficult debut. But Mason Jones, in my opinion, passed. And, he had some excellent moments and looked like he could be on his way to winning the fight. But in a loss, scored 56 points, which is absolutely incredible, especially for a fight that, largely was on the feet. 117 significant strikes. I like Mason Jones a lot. The problem is the price. But if possibly you combine a Mason Jones 9,500 with like a Camwella Kirk at 6,800, maybe those two kind of offset each other and balance each other out. That can allow you some other high price studs and some mid-range options to make your roster construction possible.
Yeah, it's when I was looking at the card before, I hadn't even seen the salaries. I was like, all right, Mason Jones, that definitely. When I saw the price, I was like,
I know.
Oh man,
I want to say like he's my favorite fighter on the card, but that sounds silly because he's the most expensive. I mean, like, for people that are casuals and they don't know anything about this, they're gonna pull up, DFS. They're gonna pull up the DraftKings app, and they're gonna see Mason Jones 9,500. Damn, this guy must be good. Okay, pencil him in. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna be chalky because of his price. But in the same token, when ownership comes out on Saturday and we're doing live before lock, if he's under owned because of such an expensive salary, I might actually just try to make my rosters work by rostering him.
I think the question at that price tag, though, is Pete, is what does he have to score to be optimal?
Don't you think that he could absolutely just obliterate Alan Patrick and get like 120, 130 points? I think that's definitely possible. I mean, if you put Alan Patrick in the cage for Mason Jones's debut instead of Mike Davis, and he had the exact same performance, he was on his way to a finish, in my opinion, and probably would have busted down the doors to 120 points against Alan Patrick. Now, this fight's a different fight. This is a different camp. We don't know what's going on, but I still like Mason Jones quite a bit.
Yeah, I like him that spot, but to me at 9,500, I need 115, 120 points for that
Absolutely.
really to come in there. Next up, we got a matchup that just came together here over the last couple of days. Fiorot and Ricci. We don't have a price tag on Ricci yet. 8,500 for her opponent. I think her opponent's going to be, because that price tag is going to become interesting. She is a 5-1 betting favorite this one, but I want to bring up Tabitha Ricci's strength of schedule, Pete. Her last 3 fights. LFA 90 back in September of last year. It was her opponent's pro debut. Next matchup, LFA 98 back in January. Her opponent's record 1-5. Her fight in April, her opponent's record 2-3.
Yeah.
I mean, look, she may go out there and shock me and put on real performance, but like when I see that stuff, and now you're in the UFC, especially on short notice, it scares me.
It happens though. I mean, if you really go back and you dig into everybody's career, you'll see that there are some, low level competition when you're starting off, but now you're in the UFC. I understand what you're saying. I don't think that she was expecting to get this call to the UFC so quickly. So she was taking that long type of boxing approach to her career, or her management was doing that, because like for a lot of fighters, they don't have say. Well, they have say, but they have so much trust in their management and their team that they allow them to make the decisions for them. Like, I'll fight whoever, you just kind of pick the opponents for me. So it takes the stress off my shoulders. And, if you think that I need to work on certain things, obviously I'm going to take the long approach, but there are some fighters that literally fight like, murderers row, and they're sitting there just fighting, the best regional talent in the world. And it comes to, it's like an argument. Do you fight the best fighters on the regional scene? Do you waste those fights instead of saving those for a higher promotion? It's a tough balance.
This is what I'll say. Look, I have no problem with being the A side of the fight on the regional scene. And also I'll say this, don't take a UFC level on the regional pay. Like I'm the first one to say that.
Okay.
But also I will tell you, there have been times with other fighters where, because of the relationship I have with regional matchmakers, sometimes you'll find out like, yeah, that fighter just won't take a notable fight.
Yeah.
And that to me is always a red flag.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, right, you've got to step up. I mean, you're either part of that type of competition or you're not. So like, you really have to like, okay, well, test yourself. And a lot of people are afraid to test themselves, and they want to put themselves in winning positions all the time. But I understand what you're saying. And I think that my analysis for this fight is less about Tabitha Ricci and me kind of disregarding her strength of schedule, and more about Manon Fiorot. I just like Manon Fiorot a lot. I think that she's going to be the more physical fighter there. I thought she looked absolutely incredible in her debut. And if you didn't know and you weren't on the Manon Fiorot wave that we were talking about in our pre-show, she went out there and made us look really, really smart. And I think that, that incredible standing TKO over Victoria Leonardo stood out and proves that she's very dangerous within the division. I like Manon Fiorot quite a bit. I think that she's just a strong fighter, even at 8,500. I think I'll have plenty of Manon Fiorot in my lineups. I don't know if I expect a finish because it is women's MMA, but in her debut, she did score 100 fantasy points with a second round TKO.
Yeah, 8,500. She does that. You're going to love that. And we always talk about that. Sometimes you got to look in that mid 8K range to find some of those fighters. Next up, we got another female matchup, Montana De La Rosa versus Ariane Lipski. This is my question for Lipski. How does she keep the fight on the feet?
Yeah, right. I mean, when you're out grappled and out wrestled by, Antonina Shevchenko, then you really have to, sit there and make adjustments to your game. And in the UFC, we have seen Lipski taken down quite a bit. I think that Montana De La Rosa, if she's anything, she's a good grappler and a good wrestler. So when I see that Ariane Lipski was taken down one time in her debut against Joanne Calderwood, twice by Molly McCann, twice by Isabella De Padua, and then once by Antonina Shevchenko, and then was TKO'd. I don't know if that's a red flag for me, but it makes me have some interest in Montana De La Rosa. Now, I did not expect Montana De La Rosa to have this high of a salary. Like, I really didn't. Full transparency, I didn't think that she'd be 9,300. I thought that I was going to be able to come in here. It's a women's MMA, and I was going to be able to get her around 8,500 or something like that. 9,300, because I don't really have so much faith in Montana De La Rosa, even though she has a clear path to victory by taking her opponent to the mat. Scored 3 takedowns in the Bueno Silva fight, 1 in the Araujo fight, 1 in the Romero Barella, 5 in the Lee fight. So, the numbers are there, Jason, and the potential is there. So I don't know if Lipski can really work back to her feet. This could be a lot of get a takedown, tons of control time, potentially work towards a submission finish or a TKO. I still like Montana De La Rosa. I don't really think that Ariane Lipski has had enough time. Well, let's see this. I was going to say hasn't had enough time to make the adjustments. That Shevchenko fight was in November of 2020. So, we're coming up, what's that, like 7-8 months?
Yeah.
That's okay. Maybe she has made some adjustments, but it's just not a solid stylistical fight for her.
Next up, we got Sean Woodson taking on Yusuf Zalal. This is an odd matchup to me.
I don't know. First off,
you've got Woodson, who is a tall, lanky guy at 145 pounds. And then you got Zalal, who really is more a 35er than he is a 45er, just because of his size. Woodson's got a massive 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. At 8,800, I don't know if I trust Woodson. Zalal is a guy that I've constantly backed in DFS, and more times it just hasn't worked out the way I'd hope it would work out here. But the one thing about Zalal is movement. He's like, it's not Dominic Cruz type movement, but he moves around a lot. And I just kind of wonder, he's going to have to get on the inside, and how's he going to do it?
Yeah. So, it's a great point. I don't understand the matchmaking with this fight. And I feel like this is a wasted fight for both fighters, because you have Woodson, who's just like a skyscraper for the division. And you have Yusuf Zalal, who has shown promise and actually looked really good early on until he fought Ilya Topuria. And then in his most recent fight against Sungwoo Choi, didn't really, pull that one out. But I think that Yusuf Zalal could struggle at range. And the reason he could struggle at range is because of Woodson's frame, right? Woodson being 6'2" with a 78-inch reach is absolutely bananas. Yusuf Zalal is a pretty big guy for the division too, 5'10", 72-inch reach. So even being a big guy, he's going to be at a slight disadvantage here. I think the elusiveness and the movement could actually reduce the volume of Sean Woodson, because people are going to be box score watching and going back and seeing that Woodson scored 100 significant strikes in 2 of his 3 UFC fights. And, he's got crazy volume and length. But if he's not able to really bring his feet with him and hit a moving target, the guy who's darting in and out could possibly frustrate him, or it could just materialize into a low volume, a low production affair. I still think that Yusuf Zalal will look to take him down. I really do. Look to take him down and test that ground game of his. I think that Yusuf Zalal is the better grappler, and I think the better overall fighter. Woodson does seem to be a little bit one-dimensional with his hands. Picked up a nice knee knockout on the Contender Series. But for me, right, this might be one of my least favorite fights as far as DFS. I might not roster either one of these guys. And if I did roster one of them, I'd probably just hope that Yusuf Zalal can put something together and come through for us.
Yeah, it's odd, and they're both rep by the same manager, which also makes it kind of interesting. But by the way, the first fight is also they both have the same manager. That's Jordan Leavitt taking on Claudio Puelles. Leavitt 9,000, of course, coming off that slam victory, last year. First off, one of the craziest things about Jordan is before he got to UFC, he had never lifted a weight.
Yeah, and now he's a part of the PI, right? And he's doing it.
Yeah, he's at the PI. This is a crazy thing. I was talking to somebody who's fighting this week in Tennessee, Peter Pettis, who is now fighting at 55. His days of 45 are over. He's in your book, days 45 are done. You're never going to see 46 on the scale ever again.
No.
And he told me the same exact thing. He's like, yeah, I've never lifted weights. And in my mind, I'm going, this is just crazy to me to think about an athlete never lifted weights.
Yeah, I wasn't big into weightlifting because I've always been like a slender kid, and I've always been like, a string bean for a very long time. I graduated at 6 foot at 130 pounds. So I was skinny. So I was fighting at 135 pounds for the longest time. And, weights, it depends on what type of background you come from too. Like a lot of boxing or a lot of kickboxing don't really believe in the weights because they think it makes you too tight or too rigid. But MMA, not so much. Wrestlers do like to lift. So it's kind of finding that balance between the sports. And especially when you're in MMA, you need to incorporate weightlifting.
Yeah, I think this is a showcase for Jordan here.
Yeah, I like the price range at $9,000 for Jordan Leavitt. I think that he can resort to takedowns to get it done. I mean, his stats are absolutely ridiculous. 1 significant strike, 1 takedown, 1 win, 120 points. I mean, that's just, if people don't know Jordan Leavitt and they're just going by that box score, he looks like a smash play at only 9,000. I do like him. I don't think that this is an easy fight. I think that Claudio Puelles is skilled. He is 10-2 overall, but I do think that Jordan Leavitt can go out there, whether he gets, numerous takedowns, gets one, gets a reversal. His jiu-jitsu is so sneaky and so threatening that he can work towards a finish. And, I just like the fact that he's an undefeated fighter, from Syndicate. I just really like that. And, Jordan Leavitt will be a part of one of my must-haves. Not for every lineup, but I'll have tons of exposure.
Before we get into our fight picks,
Mm-hmm.
I want to mention this question that came in on Twitter a little earlier from Hunter Man. He says, one of my boys went with Lariano off his superior get-up game. What I don't understand is why Roman does not get tons of takedowns anyway if they're coming easy. Who is correct to each of you?
Well, let me tell you. It sounds so stupid, right? But sometimes fighters know their strengths, but want to prove that their weaknesses are not that weak in the cage. And so, like, you see, like, fighters starting to fall in love with their hands, and a guy like Roman Dolidze, like, who has such a grappling advantage over everybody, it's almost like he wants to get victories a different way. If he went out there and he just was adamant about taking people down and getting quick submission wins and trying to climb the ladder, I think that he really could be dangerous within the division. Maybe that loss is exactly what he needs. Maybe that's what he needs to kind of wake up and start to work on his strengths. But, it's a good argument. Staropoli's get-up game versus Dolidze's, takedowns, and the fact that he's going to be the much more physical fighter. If he goes out there and tries to strike against Staropoli, I just think he's going to get out volumed like 2-1. If he gets his hands on Staropoli, I think Staropoli is going for a ride, even multiple times. But the fact that Dolidze does cut a tremendous amount of weight, to make middleweight, I think is always interesting. Yes, he'll be stronger, but will he be able to keep up the pace through 3 rounds?
Yeah. Of course, Samuel, I saw his super chat. We'll get into that too here in a moment, but let's give our straight up fight picks. Of course, if you do want to leave some last minute questions, leave those right there in YouTube. Of course, if you're not subscribed to Awesemo on YouTube, be sure to do that. Got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. And of course, be sure to give us a thumbs up. We really do appreciate that. Let's go our straight up fight picks. They have nothing related to DFS. Let's start off with the main event. Give me Rozenstruik against Sakai.
Yeah, same. Rozenstruik for me.
Harris Tybura. My heart wants to say Harris. My brain. I'm going to go with my brain. Marcin Tybura.
Yeah, Tybura.
Dolidze versus Staropoli. This one I kind of went back and forth. Give me Dolidze.
Yeah, give me Dolidze. I don't feel good about it.
Ponzinibbio versus Baeza.
Yeah, Baeza, baby.
I'm Baeza as well. Dusko and Rodrigues.
Dusko.
I'm with you on that one. Give me Tom Breese against Arroyo.
Agreed. Tom Breese.
Amirkhani versus Kirk.
Well, since this isn't DFS related, I will say, damn, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'll go Camwella Kirk. I'll take a shot.
I'm giving me Amirkhani the favorite, but I do from a DFS perspective, I do like Kirk. Boser, Latifi. This is another one I keep going back and forth on. I'm gonna say Boser, but I am concerned that he gets taken down.
I like Latifi.
Trinaldo, Salikhov. I will take Salikhov.
Salikhov.
Give me Jones against Patrick.
Jones.
Ricci. No way. No way. Can't go with. Give me. Fiorot a over 5-1 betting favorite.
Wow. Yeah. Give me Manon Fiorot.
De La Rosa against Lipski. I will go De La Rosa.
Yes.
I think she takes it to the ground.
De La Rosa.
Woodson, Zalal. I'm going to go with the underdog here in Yusuf Zalal.
I'm a Zalal guy, man. Like I know that he's a friend of your show, and I watch all the interviews.
They're both friends of the show, by the way.
Is Woodson? Okay, but I feel like you've known Zalal for a lot longer, or you talk to Zalal a lot more. At least it seems that way. I don't know. I like Zalal quite a bit.
Yeah, Woodson has done some work there at Glory. Give me Jordan Leavitt in the opening fight of the night.
Agree. Jordan Leavitt.
Samuel in the super chat with his usual questions: top 2 cash, GPP, MVP, inside the distance, who will break the slate, top favorite fighters, close to lock status. What are optimal fights to consider? Much love. So, in terms of, let's start off with the GPP aspect of this one.
Okay.
I think in terms of fights, I think you have to be looking Baeza, Ponzinibbio.
That Tybura Harris for me really sticks out.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are the 2 fights I think you really got to stick to. In terms of cash, my general thought is, who am I going to have the most faith in? If you can do roster construction with Mason Jones, he would be the top one for me.
Yeah, I think like cash, right? Like to give you 2 of the most expensive guys is very easy, but Jordan Leavitt, Mason Jones seem like 2 of my favorite 9,000 options. Montana De La Rosa, it's women's MMA. Anything can happen. Tom Breese, you don't really know what you're going to get. Has been a head case at times, struggled with confidence, 9,200, needs to get a finish in order to perform there. Salikhov, low volume, 9,100. So for me, like the 9,000 options, and Amirkhani, 9,400, facing a guy who could punish him off of bad takedowns. I think it's Jordan Leavitt, Mason Jones as 2 of the best 9K options.
In terms of that MVP type role, Tybura is someone that does stick out to me because of the potential of multiple takedowns plus a stoppage. Because, I mean, look, the longer that fight goes, the more you favor Marcin Tybura.
Yeah, I still favor Marcin Tybura quite a bit. I think that he could take him to takedown city, or he could just take him down once and get a finish. I really like him a bit.
In terms of inside the distance props, I think you got to look at Mason Jones as an inside the distance prop. I mean, that's someone I would look to there. I would also look at Jordan Leavitt at 9,000 as an inside the distance type guy.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I mean, his submission ability, I don't think he's going to pick up knockouts because his striking doesn't seem to be there. But, I mean, we've heard a lot about his grappling and his jiu-jitsu, from the regional scene to, in the training room. We've heard a lot about it. So I think that he could live up to the nickname and the hype.
I've heard some things about his stand-up ability in terms of training. It just has not transferred to fight night because of the grappling.
Positive things you've heard. You've heard
yes.
Okay.
Positive things I've heard. Top favorite fighters close to lock status.
Mason Jones, I guess, but I feel like that's a cop out, right? Like that's
I mean, the price point just if he was like 9,100, he'd probably be but at 9,500, it becomes a roster construction question.
Yeah, so like, if you like mid-range, I think Manon Fiorot's in a smash spot, absolute smash spot. I really do. I think that's an excellent and workable salary. I think that's probably like a very, very sneaky fighter to target because a lot of people don't like targeting women's MMA.
Optimal fights to target to me: Harris, Tybura, Ponzinibbio, Baeza, and I would put Dusko and Rodrigues in that category as well.
Yeah, so let me give you my 3 favorite GPP fights: Tybura Harris, Todorovic Rodrigues, and then let me go with Kirk Amirkhani. I feel like that's a sneaky one because Amirkhani's grappling. It could be a big total on either side.
Yeah. Eric says lock of the night. There's no Pete does not like that word.
I like Mason Jones a lot, and Alan Patrick is not a bad fighter at all, and Alan Patrick is really good. It's more about how impressed I was from Mason Jones. So I will say that Mason Jones is the lock of the night, but it makes roster construction extremely difficult. Now, on Saturday, we could have some changes, or, maybe we see some bad weight cuts, and that's where you can get some advantageous spots on some bad salaries or some good salaries. So make sure you guys tune in on Saturday to our Live Before Lock show. Everybody likes hanging out with us before the fights, tossing some questions in there, kind of just, discussing fights and all this and that. But if you appreciate what we did today, because Jason and I are the best in the business, and I do believe that, just hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it.
Latifi is a guy I'm really interested to see what it looks like on the scale.
I think Latifi's going to be solid for the division, right? Like, I don't think that he's going to be small. I think people are kind of like, hold on, you guys are making me do this. Hold on. I want to see.
This is my thing. Is it a good weight gain or bad weight gain?
I don't care. He just needs to be solid. So Tanner Boser, 6'2", Ilir Latifi, 5'10". I will be interested to see. And, I don't really make a lot of like stare down calls, looking at the stare downs and kind of like, oh my God, the guy's got such a reach advantage and a height advantage. He's going to win. Because none of that matters, man, because especially if they get into the clinch, or if a guy is 10 feet tall, you put him on his back, you put him on the mat, it doesn't matter, that reach advantage and everything. So I'm with you, though. I do want to see how he looks on the scale.
Final thing, Dan says, who's taking a nice trip to Takedown City?
All right, so let's talk about some candidates of who could be visiting some Takedown City stuff. So Claudio Puelles, starting us off, could be visiting Takedown City. I think Jordan Leavitt could take him there. I do think that Tanner Boser, not really though, because Tanner Boser's kind of like 27 fights, should be able to defend some takedowns, but could still get taken down quite a bit. I think Ariana Lipski could get taken down like over and over and over from Montana De La Rosa. So Montana De La Rosa is probably a pretty big candidate for that. And then, the number one on the entire card, Walt Harris, is going to Takedown City for sure. Marcin Tybura is going to, pick him up, take him down whenever he wants.
Or he might knock him out.
I mean, yeah.
Walt Harris has to be in your underdog pool. He has to.
Yeah, no. I agree. But okay. Hold on. Let's pull up Walt Harris. 13-9, Jason. Do you remember
when he wins by knockout?
It's true. But do you remember the Verdum fight? Like every time he's on the mat, he looks lost, man. And if Marcin Tybura,
as I recall, he took the Verdum fight the day of the fight.
I know he did, but still, like it's just like that was the biggest thing. That was the easiest fight for Verdum. But I don't know. I just like Marcin Tybura. He's looked pretty damn good as of late. Solid camp behind him. 27 fights, 21-6. Clear path to victory. But Walt Harris should be a part of your, your underdog pool for sure. But I do like Marcin Tybura.
Of course, we'll be here on Saturday for Live Before Lock, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Awesemo UFC Strategy Show. Of course, on your way out, be sure to leave a thumbs up and keep it locked here to Awesemo. Of course, tomorrow with all the NBA, MLB shows that we do have here. So good night, everybody. We will talk to you on Saturday for Live Before Lock.